Variety hosted this discussion between Jennifer Lawrence and Viola Davis. They tweeted a quote from Jennifer Lawrence and then got ratioed to hell. I think it had like under 100 retweets and 2.5 thousand quote tweets. Then they deleted the tweet. I saw this happen in real time. They replaced it with a new tweet in which Jennifer Lawrence was quoted saying something chopped up and then a video of her saying the full thing. But here's exactly the ridiculous claim she made. She said, "I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie because it wouldn't work. Because we were told girls and boys can both identify with a male lead, but boys can't identify with a female lead." And it just makes me so happy every single time I see a movie come out that blows through every one of those beliefs and proves that it's just a lie to keep certain people out of movies. To keep certain people in the same positions that they've always been in.
Here's the thing. The box offices don't lie. The box office doesn't lie. You're wrong.
She literally believes she was the first lead female in an action movie in 2012.
Angelina Jolie, Salt, Wanted, Tomb Raider. Uma Thurman, Kill Bill. Gina Carano, Haywire. Kate Beckinsale, Underworld and Ultraviolet, Resident Evil, Mila Jovovich, Colombiana, Zoe Saldana, Anne Flux, Charlize Theron, Jennifer Garner, Elektra, and then of course Sigourney Weaver, Alien, and I've got about 90 examples of TV shows that
got Charlie's Angels, G.I. Jane, V for Vendetta.
Chronicles.
Yes. Well, I would push back on a couple of those, like Wanted. It's not like Angelina Jolie was the solo star of Wanted.
No, she was. But she was
Main point being, Jennifer Lawrence just comes
Top
off
villain,
as
right?
insanely ignorant of the industry in which she works to think that she is the first or even one of the first lead female actresses in an action movie.
Remember when she used to be America's Sweetheart for being so real?
Yeah.
I hated that. I always saw through it because she's
guys,
like Gigi Hadid also. We eat burgers. We're real, like, down to earth actresses.
Here's the thing. If you read
models.
She's obviously abandoned this because the interview that she gives, that she does with Viola Davis, is one of the most mind-numbingly self-indulgent things and self-important things you'll ever read. Here's also my pushback. People identify with male action heroes on both genders because the men want to be the guy saving the girl, and women want to be the person getting saved by the guy. That does not work the other way around because men do not daydream about being saved by women, and women don't really daydream about saving men because it goes against our biology and against how we are as human beings. On average, I'm not saying.
So you're kind of agreeing with Jennifer Lawrence's take in a sense that the male viewers can't always identify with a female lead.
I'm saying that they can, but the idea here is that it's just harder to do. Right? It's not as easy to do. I'm giving you the general idea behind it. The reason why the male action hero is on average more successful is because it's a lot easier to sell that to an audience than it is to sell a woman, because you have to go against human nature to get people to buy into it, which usually means it has to be an extremely charismatic actress. The shooting has to be extremely pronounced and stylistic. There has to be something about it that sells you beyond just the idea that you identify with this person.
And a lot of people would push back on that and say they never felt that way. One tweet said, "I can honestly say this never mattered to me, not even as a child. When I found a character I really liked, it didn't matter to me whether that was a man or a woman. And in real life, too, I had both male and female role models." That's how most people conduct themselves outside of Hollywood's weird, insulated culture where men and women are pitted against each other. I think even the precedent that male leads are more relatable to both male and female viewers, or you can identify with them more easily, that precedent is being disrupted because of the recurring theme of a panicky, incompetent, blundering male lead. I think even the new series starring Noah Centineo, in which he's like this outsider recruit to the CIA, the whole trailer is just him panicking and looking like an idiot.
Let's talk about that. Where does Does that come from before Shia LaBeouf in Transformers, the panicky male lead? I'm sure there's tons of examples, but that's the most
Like he's
recent.
solely
Yeah.
responsible.
Like, to me, I think of it as like he
That
did
mother.
it in a way that was like charismatic and
Yeah.
worked, but that doesn't mean you keep doing it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I can't think of an example of someone in another case where it's not supposed to be
Make it the
satire.
exception, not the rule. That's all that people are asking for, you know?
Yeah.
I
So
think one of the problem isn't like they're contriving a problem that isn't. It's a what am I trying to say? It's a misdiagnosis where it's not that men can't identify with female leads or whatever. It's that they don't know how to write it, where they're trying to write, they're just pasting a woman over a man.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the ones you listed are interesting because here's the situation, how would a woman handle it? And they write it that way. Like,
Yep.
that's why Ripley is so interesting. That's why Sarah Connor. And obviously those are the cliches for a reason, because they're the best versions of it.
even Angelina Jolie
Yeah.
in Salt has to walk out on her life because of what's going on, right? Like,
Right. Like there's
Or
but
two-
the way that they handle, like if you put a woman in like whatever action movie, the way that they approach the situations is different. The way that they handle it is different. A really good example of this actually is National Treasure,
Yeah.
where like
And we're getting we're getting the female national treasure soon too, the show.
and they're gonna butcher it. But the way that they did Diane Kruger's character and how she like handled those situations versus how Nicolas Cage did was part of the intrigue and like adorableness of the series, right?
Yeah.
And when you say like, well, we're just gonna do what Tim Miller did and do Terminator 2 Judgment Day with all female characters the exact same way,
Yeah.
you're like, what? That's why it feels so disingenuous. That's why it feels so. And then so the only way to defend yourself is to say that men can't identify with female characters, even though they have for the entire history of the movie franchise,
I also find it
of the movie industry.
oddly insulting to like human beings to tell them like you can, like
Yeah.
all you can understand is you. Like
Yeah.
that feels like weapons grade projection
Yeah.
from a bunch of narcissists who can't understand what it's like to be somebody else that isn't them. When I
Yeah.
give you that example, like men, it's easier for like to sell that product of the man identifying with the male lead because of how that works. It's because on average, a couple that's busy, only goes to the movies once a month, like they're not going to want to go see like the guy. In fact, I would say the guy will still most likely still be the one that will go and see that movie over the woman. The woman isn't going to see the action movie with the female lead. The guy still might.
Yep.
It's kind of like the WNBA. Women don't give a crap about the WNBA because like it just doesn't
women do.
interest women on average. So it's easier to get a male to like the female lead. Now, they would also probably say, can you do that without making them sexualized? Yes, because I don't find most of those ones that I gave, those examples that
Are
I
you talking
gave,
about women or men and
making
women?
the women sexualized.
But even the men are.
Yes. Well, it's like, who was it yesterday that I was looking at? They were saying, why are all the men naked in these movies now? Like, I was looking at old articles from the Mary Sue where they're all thirst trapping Chris Hemsworth. And I'm like, why is this okay for this? Is it just the double standard? Is it for what reason? And also, there's tons of examples in Hollywood of them almost giving roles to women that really connect with people. As bad as the movie Die Another Day was, people loved Halle Berry as Jinx in that movie. I know it feels like a long time ago, but like she was actually like kind of liked in that movie. And they were talking about giving her a sequel, like her own spin-off.
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde is amazing.
Yeah.
And like but because it approached it that way. It approached it the way. First of all, it was hypersexual. Like
Yeah.
they were hypersexualized given the time period it takes place in. But it wrote it as like, how would a woman in Berlin during this time period handle this? And it was amazing.
Well, I was saying, and maybe like the idea is like the superheroes that gives them the out. They don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
Like with Black Widow, you have to explain it
Yeah.
because she doesn't have superpowers. But with most female characters, even I think of Jennifer Garner not just as Elektra, but as Sydney Bristow in Alias. Like you have to explain it.
Alias.
Why are you so good at this? The disguises,
She
the
just
ability
did
to.
Peppermint too, where
Yeah.
she was like an ass kisser.
I didn't
Ass kisser? Ass
yeah.
kisser.
That too. Also, I want to point
And you
out
believe
that
it.
there's nothing more hilarious than a society. I talk about this with activists where I point out that I think that a lot of Gen Z feels robbed of like the last great social justice struggle, meaning like the millennials were there to really push for the legalization of gay marriage, which in America was the last great social injustice. Now we're just looking for things to be upset about all the time. But there's nothing funnier than just women and men in Hollywood constantly pretending they're setting records that don't actually exist because they feel that they want to be trailblazers when they don't realize that it's been going on for
It's
years.
like
And
a-
it's
It's worse
bizarre
in comics.
because Jennifer Lawrence has openly seemed so resentful of her career's beginnings in X-Men movies and The Hunger Games because they're franchise movies. They came in a series.
Yeah.
The fans are either predominantly male or predominantly children, which is not a problem. They are huge money-making franchises, and she doesn't seem to appreciate that that's how she launched her career, to be able to take smaller roles in these more like artsy, thoughtful projects like Causeway, which she never shuts up about.
Yeah.
Like, she says that, I think also like in this exact conversation, she should have said no to any and all roles that didn't, quote, speak to her.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't even know that that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have.
Sometimes they don't. What she doesn't want to admit is the money spoke to her.
Of course.
And that's fine.
But
I don't
she
care if the money
pretends
speaks
that
to you. That's good. Make your
she
money.
pretends to be above that.
Yeah.
And really, she's after influencing the youth and all of those little girls out there who want to be Katniss. I wanted to read this other quote from the discussion.
Yeah.
She said, "In Hunger Games, it was an awesome responsibility. Those books were huge, and I knew that the audience was children. I remember the biggest conversation was, how much weight are you going to lose? Doubt it. Along with me being young and growing and not able to be on a diet, I don't know if I want all of the girls who are going to dress up as Katniss to feel like they can't because they're not a certain weight. And I can't let that seep into my own brain either." Just like the fact that that's your takeaway from it. It's just like that tweet that I was referencing the other day, showing all of these little girls at Disney who take pictures with the on-site actresses that are dressed up as Rey from Star Wars.
Yep.
And they caption it, "I don't care what you think of Star Wars making Rey into a Mary Sue. This is what really matters.
Because the movie
Shut
doesn't-
up.
The movie doesn't matter. The message matters.
Shut up. Stop criticizing.
Yeah, the message. Also, I do want to
Message above all.
If
Yeah.
I was to play the devil's advocate here and give her the benefit of the doubt, I don't know if this was. I'm assuming this was a spoken interview and
Yeah, it
recorded
was
and
all
not-
on video.
If I read this quote again, she says, "I remember when I was doing Hunger Games. Nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
Never.
Like what I imagine is what she meant to say was like they weren't putting women in the leads of action movies, which is more to say like it's less common rather than they had never done it." That's me giving her the
But-
ultimate ultra mega benefit of the doubt.
It still, even if that is a generalization and she realizes that, it shows her own overestimation of her influence on the industry, right?
Well, do you think they're all like that?
Like, you wouldn't have been casted in the role that, kind of launched her career without the predecessors in all of these other action movies.
but they do this with everything. It's the first person of this group to be in this, and like it's the first person.
Reminds me of how they talk about LeBron. Like it's the first time somebody scored this on a Tuesday after
Yeah.
eating Taco Bell.
I got to get the link from when they do that.
Fake milestones
Yeah,
that
fake
mean
milestones.
nothing.
There's a great. I've mentioned this on the show many times. It was either in the movie Little Big League or it was in the movie Major League, where one of the announcers keeps like handing there's an announcer who doesn't speak and he keeps handing him their records that aren't really records, and they do that. John Boy Media, which is they cover baseball and sports. They have a segment called Stats That Exist But Don't Really Matter. Like that's what all of this is. It's stats that exist but don't really matter, and even then they're lying half the time.
Another thing that stuck with me from this interview is that Variety is basically running damage control for Jennifer Lawrence's stupid comments by deleting the tweet where people were criticizing her and then tweeting it again in a more flattering light. It just shows that
It's also fake.
all of these, it's
all
also
so
fake.
fake.
They're such slime balls and they're so dishonest. And it shows something that we've talked about before, which is that these media outlets are working in tandem with the celebrities that give them media appearances. They are working in partnership, and there's no scrutiny on the celebrities who are out here saying stupid shit.
Where back in the day, they would have been held
Right,
at least
exactly.
somewhat accountable. There would have been somebody whose job it was to be like, hey, I don't know if that's true. Like is Viola Davis supposed to be like, well, I don't know
Like
about that.
who is the social media manager who decided to delete the tweet simply because it was getting pushback.
That's all. I mean, that's also really, really funny too to me, because it's like, you think that these companies aren't organized. They are that organized, that that there's somebody there monitoring how a tweet does,
right?
And then they pull it down. How dystopian is that even? like this is Variety,
because we have to white knight for Jennifer Lawrence.
It's a puff piece about Jennifer Lawrence and Viola Davis giving each other ultimate high fives and saying yes, because we are strong, independent women that don't need no man in an industry that literally goes out of its way to protect them.
May I recall the interaction where Jennifer Lawrence finishes a longer statement and Viola Davis says, "You're highly articulate." And then Jennifer Lawrence says to Viola Davis, "And you're very beautiful."
Dude, that imagine being in a room where nobody actually likes each other and they're all lying.
This is how women compliment each other, by the way.
I'm not going to bring up the meme that I always bring up in this case. Yes, women lie to each other by giving each other compliments, and men lie to each other by insulting one another. That's what, most of the time when me and Dane are talking, we are like absolutely like saying the most heinous thing you can possibly say to another human being, because it's a term of endearment. But I also find that to be a lot less. Okay, I find it a lot less damaging to like roast your friends and then, maybe once in a while you go just a bit too far. Whereas like there's a buildup of the fakeness of women, like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. No, you are.
You have to keep raising the stakes every time.
You're like, and there's nothing worse than that, than internet, like Instagram comment sections where like people like just suck each other off and just say and say like
vulgar, Brett.
Say a bunch of stuff that they don't actually believe. Like, oh my God,
Roger.
you are so beautiful. You are such a queen. Like, you don't freaking care.
That's the media's job, though.
It
today.
is their dude. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.